There are only a few things that gamers can never be sure of. That Link will always get the Triforce of Courage, that Kratos will always find someone to stab, that EA will always nickel and dime the hell out of any franchise it can. These certainties, while not always good, let gamers feel comfortable, secure in their lifestyle. One of these reassuring expectancies used to be that every Nintendo system will always launch with a Mario platformer. It was just a given. But then, in 2001, Nintendo shocked the world by holding off on their long-awaited sequel to Mario 64, and instead launching the GameCube with a game unlike anything we'd ever seen before, Luigi's Mansion. At first, gamers were outraged. Sure, they'd always wanted a game starring Luigi that didn't involve memorizing, geography, but using such an odd experiment to launch a new console? What was Nintendo thinking? Well, maybe they were thinking more than the rest of us, because as it turns out, maybe Nintendo launched the GameCube with the true sequel to Mario 64 after all. Now, Luigi's Mansion has a pretty unique premise for a game, although it very obviously does take a bit of inspiration from outside sources. But a game taking place inside a haunted mansion that isn't a horror game or feature any real fear elements? It's not a platformer, it's not quite a puzzle game, and although the combat system is genius, more on that later, it's not quite an action game either. This game defies any existing genre. It can only really be described as an adventure, as an experience, as fun. So Nintendo kicked off their newest console with something entirely new. When you start the game, Luigi is the only character that players would already know. The ghosts are all new creations, seemingly having abandoned the old Boo designs, and then there's this guy, Professor Egad. Judging from the fact that Flood from Mario Sunshine was also made by this freaky little dude, it's obvious that Nintendo was working on expanding their universe, trying new things, innovating, if you will. When you buy a new console, your gut reaction may be that you just want to see all your favorite characters in better graphics. But in reality, we need more than just new hardware for a changing console generations. We need new ideas as well. That's not to say that Nintendo abandoned their established franchise though. As the game progresses, Luigi is reunited with Toad and begins to encounter more familiar Mario enemies such as Shy Guy ghosts, and of course, the classic Boos, who are conspiring to get revenge against the Mario Brothers. The payoff to all of these connections to the previous games is of course the final boss, in which the player has to face off against the spitting image of Bowser, controlled by the devious King Boo. This was a point in time when Nintendo knew just the right amount of build-up and precision required for nostalgia to be the most effective, instead of relying on it entirely as they could theoretically be accused of doing today. Indeed, the most fondly remembered parts of Luigi's Mansion are the things that stood out as being unique, though still soaked in Nintendo's trademark flair. The combat system is without a doubt pure genius. Besides the most basic ghouls, each enemy has some small quirk to make revealing their hearts more difficult. Once you've overcome this, however, the combat turns into a game of ectoplasmic fishing, a back-and-forth battle of wills that remains just as engaging by the end of the game as it was when you first began your journey. The portrait ghosts are the finest example of this, each one showcasing a unique full-room puzzle to solve to unveil their hearts before some of the toughest tug-of-war in the game that will require both the control stick and the C-stick to be slammed to achieve victory. So, it seems we have a game that shows off the technical strengths of a new console's hardware and controller, along with a soothing mixture of both old and new to ease us into the possibilities of a new generation. Sound familiar? Well, let's just say that maybe it's not a coincidence that there's such an emphasis on paintings with mysterious properties in this game, or even the eyebrow-raising setting of a large building with multiple floors that are blocked off until a boss battle is won. Yes, I am fully willing to state that Luigi's Mansion is the closest thing to a Super Mario 64 sequel that we'll ever get. True, games such as Sunshine and Galaxy have continued to refine the Mario platforming formula, but they also seem to deviate slightly from some of the mystery that the original 3D platformer had. There was a sense of exploration, of trying new things, that is hard to sum up in words. Luigi's Mansion took this sense of adventure, of wondering what lies just around the bend, and built an entire game upon it. So, what specific part of Luigi's Mansion do I call out for being really freaking clever? In this case, it's not quite as clear-cut. The game mechanics are tight, the story and characters are filled with cartoony charm, and the presentation is phenomenal. But all in all, it's the new ideas that make Luigi's Mansion so great. The thrill of turning on your GameCube for the first time and experiencing the same curiosity as Luigi as you venture through a dark and dastardly world, it's a feeling you can't get anywhere else. A launch title should not only make a player feel invested in that game, it should make them excited for all the possibilities to come. And the fact that we were able to have both the new and the old in such a spectacular way, well, that is just really freaking clever. Like this episode? Why not subscribe and check out some of my other videos? Help a poor Canadian student out. Also, P.S. I'm not sure how much longer I'm gonna do this whispering joke, but making this video go viral would be really freaking clever. See you next time.